Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today.
Welcome to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Alyssa Jo. How's it going today? I hope you're having a wonderful day. If you're like me, you are probably eating every single thing in your house during this isolation. I've seen so many things online of people trying new recipes, doing new things, just trying new food because, you know, when you're bored, you eat. At least I definitely do. So that's when I stumbled upon this first little story I have for you today. It kind of made me chuckle. It's a survey. They surveyed 2,000 American adults in California, Texas, New York, Hawaii, and Florida. And they've kind of come together with this list of bizarre, weird meals that I guess are apparently delicious that we should all try during our quarantine isolation time. So I thought I would share them with you. There's some statistics here. There's some really weird, combinations. Some are weirder than others. But I thought I'd share it with you because I find it super interesting. And since we're all probably eating every single thing we can, might as well make it adventurous and eat some weird things. There is some pretty unusual food combinations that all Americans enjoy, or I shouldn't say all Americans, that some Americans enjoy, and kind of combining these together, they've just come up with interesting things, basically. So the first thing I'm going to share with you is the top 5 ways Americans discovered their favorite food pairings. So the first one is from family and friends, 41% said that. The second is restaurant, 36%. Social media, print, or online news is 33%. Word of mouth is 32%. And then celebrity endorsement or advertisement is 25%. So some of these combinations you've probably definitely heard of before. I've definitely seen people do them. And then others are a little bit more weird. So let's just jump right into it and talk about these kind of maybe crazy, maybe not crazy food combinations. Because these are the 10 most popular or crazy food combinations that Americans are loving right now, specifically. Number 1 is French fries and a chocolate milkshake. 55% said that. You know what? I have seen a lot of people try French fries and any kind of milkshake, or just French fries and ice cream or something like that. A lot of my friends dip their French fries in their ice cream. Personally, not my thing, but I've seen lots of people do it. Number 2 is cottage cheese and fruit. 50%. It's kind of interesting. Fruit preserves with cheese and crackers. 47%. Chocolate and popcorn, 45%. I can get with that one. Peanut butter and apple, I can definitely get with that one. I don't think that one's that weird. Is that weird? Sauerkraut and cheese, 43%. Not my thing. Cheddar cheese and apple pie, 42%. I don't know how that would taste. That sounds very interesting. French fries and pickles, 37%. I think pretty much everything goes pretty good with French fries. Number 9 is cold pizza and ranch dressing, 36%. I think that one's a pretty typical one. And number 10 is sour cream and onion chips and chocolate, 36%. So sour cream and onion chips and chocolate. Interesting. I don't know if I'd like that one either. But there you go. Those are some interesting combinations that you should try over your isolation. They also said, 39% of those that were surveyed said that they sometimes choose to eat their dessert first, while 41% skip breakfast altogether to enjoy a larger lunch instead. Not me. I wake up and I eat right away. I don't know how people do that. Now, I got top 5 things that spark a food craving. I think our boredom right now probably sparks a lot of food cravings, but I thought I would share the top 5 ways. So number 1 is watching food videos or entertainment TV, 52%. I think there's just something about eating food while watching TV, especially like food, or scrolling through Instagram and seeing all like the food videos and then having to like try not to stuff your face after. Difficult. So I can see how that would spark a craving. Number 2 is talking to friends about a food experience, 42%. Makes sense. Number 3 is seeing an advertisement for a specific food, 41%. Number 4 is looking for recipes, 36%. And number 5 is stress, 32%. So there you have it. Those are the top 5 things that spark a food craving, but I'm sure you were probably aware of all of those because I feel like I was. But they say 52% of Americans say their cravings are mostly experienced at night, and most of them are brought on by food videos or some type of entertainment, TV, movies, those kind of things. But there you have it. Now, my next story is about food as well, but it's about doing good. Some restaurants are giving food to frontline workers during this time, which is pretty amazing. Starbucks president and CEO Kevin Johnson, cafes across Canada and the U.S. are now offering free small coffees to anyone who identifies themselves as a frontline responder over the course of the next month. I've also seen McDonald's doing this. There's a bunch of different there's a bunch of different restaurants that are kind of doing what they can to help the frontline workers. A lot of the North American branches for Starbucks are either closed completely or just drive-through locations. But they will be providing free coffees to police officers, firefighters, paramedics, doctors, nurses, and hospitals employees up until May 3rd, as of right now. Kevin Johnson says, this moment in time, as the world is united in an effort to mitigate the efforts of COVID-19, requires coordinated action by governments, healthcare providers, businesses, and people in every community. Working together, we are making a difference, and together we will overcome this unprecedented challenge. We also may know Krispy Kreme, the very famous donut drive-thru shop. They are also offering free boxes of donuts to healthcare workers every Monday, starting on March 30th, for National Doctors Day. It says, just go to Krispy Kreme drive-thru, tell us what you need, and show us your employer badge. That's it. Pick up some free dozens on the way to work for you and your colleagues, or maybe a free dozen on your way home to family after a long shift. You might also know this company, Crocs. They have a pretty popular non-stick cleanable shoe option for hospital workers. The company is also giving away free pairs of shoes through their online site. Another one, tropical smoothie locations are offering to give away 100,000 smoothies to healthcare workers across the U.S. In cafes across the country, the Tropical Smoothie Cafe family is working tirelessly to support our local communities, which are currently facing unprecedented hardship. That was Charles Watson, the CEO of Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Says our safety is dependent upon the selfless hard work of our local healthcare workers and first responders, and we want to help them in any way we can. So there's 100,000 smoothies giving away. Pretty cool. So there's just some examples of what some restaurants, companies are doing to help the frontline workers. It's pretty cool to see, but we can always do what we can as well to help out. But I just love hearing these stories. My next story is about a man named Pete Darmos. He's a cafe owner, and he did something pretty amazing. He withdrawed $10,000 in cash to give away to unemployed strangers. He's 62 years old, and he's an Australian cafe owner, and he was nicknamed Generous Pete because he spent an entire afternoon handing out $100 bills to people left unemployed by all of the COVID-19 shutdowns. So he was, of course, forced to close his restaurant as well in Melbourne, amidst all the outbreaks. All the businesses are closed down. But he felt inspired to share some of his financial fortune with the community because he actually saw an emotional news segment about the lines of people that are queuing up outside of Social Security offices across the city. So instead of just kind of sitting back and, not really doing much, he decided that he rushed to the bank and he withdrew $10,000 in cash, and he handed out each $100 bills to people standing in line at a nearby Centrelink location in Box Hill. He says, I started at the back of the queue and then basically handed everybody a $100 bill. There was tears and disbelief. $100 is not a lot of money, but 4 or 5 bags of food meant a lot to these people. He says that, he initially wanted to keep his identity anonymous throughout this whole thing, but now he decided to share his story in hopes, that his good deed will inspire other people just to show some compassion and patience and generosity to neighbors during this, really tough time that might not have the same resources. So yeah, there you go. Just $100 bills to complete strangers. It's pretty cool. All right, that's all I have for you right now, but when we get back, I have more feel-good, positive stories to share with you, including a new idea that you could be doing if you're quarantined at home. You don't want to miss this one. Stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC, America Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. So I mentioned in the last, before the break, that I have a story about a new thing that you might want to do if you're bored at home in quarantine. I might have been half kidding. You might not actually want to do this, but a man, his name is Sam Hustler, he's 27 years old, and he completed an entire half marathon from his quarantined home by literally running the length of his balcony 5,000 times. So there's the new idea for you. Why don't you run a half marathon on your balcony? Isn't that crazy? So before all of the shutdowns happened with COVID-19, he was training to run in the London Landmarks half marathon. He had been training for a really long time. It was really important to him. And it would have, taken him past some amazing places like Big Ben, St. Paul's Cathedral, places like that. He was really, really excited. But of course, due to all the restrictions, it got canceled. So he said it was going to be my first ever half marathon, and I was so excited to do it. So it was devastating when it got canceled. I had put so much time training in, and it's such a great cause I'm running for that I still wanted to do any way that I could. So literally from his apartment in South Woodford, Essex, he completed the run in 3 hours, and his girlfriend was there cheering him on the entire time. Just all he had was the views from his 3rd floor apartment, and he ran a half marathon on his balcony. I don't know how you could do that for 3 hours. I feel like I would get so bored. You're just running back and forth, but he wanted to do it. He says, I really wanted to do it for Haven House and raise as much money as possible. They've been going they've been going since 1990, and they just put up an emergency appeal for funding. All their fundraising events have been canceled, and their charity shops have had to close, which was a major source of their income. So they're an amazing charity that believes in the best possible life for every baby and child with a life-limited or life-threatening condition. They do so much for families who live in the community, and I've seen the work that they've done, which is absolutely amazing. Pretty cool. So he decided to run for that, just to show awareness. He was originally planning on running the half marathon to raise about $620 for Haven House. But now, since this has happened, he did it on his balcony, he has actually raised more than $2,400. So he's raising way more money than he would have been just by running 5,000 times back and forth on the balcony. Just saying, it's a new idea that you could do if you're really, really, really bored and you want to run back and forth and run a whole half marathon. Now, my next story, I have to say this. This is a story about that all the things that we are doing, staying at home, not going out, not socializing, it's working. I had to say this. There was a whole story on it. I have some numbers for you that I'm going to share with you. If people are in lockdown, it is working. There's lots of U.S. states and just world regions that are really implementing, like, stay-at-home orders, as we all know. And the areas that have been hit the hardest by the virus are showing that restrictions are working. So since, of course, we know that coronavirus generally takes about 2 weeks to show infection, so the results that they got from early March, and as well as China has slowly begun lifting its strict social restrictions, they're saying that it's starting to work. It's been roughly 2 weeks since Italy ordered a nationwide lockdown amidst all the outbreaks. The rates of infection have steadily been declining since the country's first recorded death on February 21st. The daily infection rate in Italy reached a high of 57% back in early March, but now just last week it reached a record low of 7.5%, which is pretty amazing. So the slowdown in the infections growth rate is extremely positive. That's what the World Health Organization Deputy Director Ranieri Guerra told. She says, "I think the measures taken by Italy are absolutely correct, perhaps with a certain delay at the start, but that is understandable." So, similar in the U.S., there's 6 Bay Area counties became the first in the nation to implement stay-at-home orders in mid-March, followed by then the Governor Gavin Newsom's statewide order 3 days later. So, lots of California hospitals have been struggling to address ventilator and bed shortages. Some researchers have reported that the virus has been spreading slower than they initially thought, and it's likely because of the lockdowns. Now, a resident physician from the University of California, San Francisco, Dr. Timothy Deister, published some encouraging data stats on Twitter, just kind of showing how the weeks-long upkick of the new infections fell, and just kind of giving you a rough idea. So Dr. Timothy Deister says these data should be regarded as a cheer from the sidelines in this marathon we're on together. It's been hard work and sacrifice, and it will continue to be. But there might be some early evidence that those efforts are paying off. So please keep staying home and keep washing your hands. Pretty cool. As well as some officials in Seattle said that this week that their lockdowns are also reflecting a decline in new cases, as the rate of individual person-to-person infections has reportedly fallen from 2.7 people to 1.4. There you have it. There's 29 American states now maintaining stay-at-home orders. Kinza Health, which is a company that has been producing and distributing internet-connected thermometers, launched an online map of the country, which kind of showed the rates of fevers, colds, and flus. It was pretty cool. Go check that out online if you haven't seen that. And I guess within days of creating the map, researchers noted that a significant decline in commonly transmitted sicknesses. The map does not show evidence that social restrictions are curbing to COVID-19 cases, but the new data states from New York and Washington have confirmed the trends illustrated that are on the map. So go check that out online if you haven't seen that. Kinza Health. So they also predicted that it's reportedly been 2 to 3 weeks ahead of those from Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The company is now working to share their technology with government health agencies to continue monitoring disease trends for the public. There you have it. And now at the end of the March, they say, we have seen illness levels in New York City drop to normal levels for this time of year, and we are seeing similar trends across the entire country. This does not mean that COVID-19 cases are declining. In fact, we expect to see reported cases continue to surge in the near term, but this data indicates these measures are starting to slow the spread. So there you have it. Stay home. Don't go out. Stay home, and it's working. I just had to share that story. I think we all needed to know that it is working from those numbers. For my next story, you may know this name, James Dyson. We all know the manufacturing mastermind behind the cyclone vacuum technology and, of course, some other inventions. He's a pretty incredible person. But he was told that we are needing some ventilators. So he invented one in just 10 days, and he's donating 5,000 of them. Pretty cool. So, the UK Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, gave James Dyson a phone call and was like, we need some ventilators, asked him basically for ventilators, and he invented a whole new one in just 10 days. A ventilator supports a patient who is no longer able to maintain their own airways, but sadly there is currently a significant shortage, both in the UK and other countries around the world. So this is what James Dyson wrote in a letter to his employees. But his employees were pretty excited. So they built one in literally 10 days. They're really eager to get to work. And they invented a brand new, easily duplicated ventilator. They say this new device can be manufactured quickly, efficiently, and at volume. Pretty cool. So the British government put in a purchase for about the first 10,000 units, and then James Dyson donated 5,000 more to international hospitals that are short on emergency equipment. James Dyson says the core challenge was how to design and deliver a new, sophisticated medical product in volume and in an extremely short space of time. The race is now on to get it into production. Production for the ventilators is slated to finish early April, so it should be any time next week. And this is really going to be vital for curbing some of the fatal cases of the virus right now. So there you go. James Dyson, 10 days, created a ventilator. It's pretty cool. I love seeing people do what they can to help out. All right, don't go anywhere. That is all the stories I have for right now. But as soon as we're back, I got more stories to share with you, especially any of you cat lovers out there. I got a story specifically for you, so stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Alyssa Jo. We're back. I'm sharing more positive, uplifting stories for you, and this one specifically for all you cat lovers out there. There was a new study, and it shows that cats form emotional attachments to their owners, just like dogs and babies and all those other things. So, usually cats are pretty independent, but this study of the way domestic cats respond to their caregivers, it shows that their socio-cognitive abilities and the depth of their human attachments have actually really been underestimated. So if you are close with your furry cat friends, this is why. They feel a connection to you too. So this was reported in the Journal of Current Biology. The findings suggest that this is a bonding ability across species, and it must be explained by traits that aren't specific to canines. That's what the researchers say. They say, like dogs, cats display social flexibility in regard to their attachments with humans. The majority of cats are securely attached to their owner and use them as a source of security in a novel environment. So one revealing way to study human attachment behavior is to observe an infant's response to a reunion with their caregiver following a brief absence in a novel environment. When the caregiver returns, secure infants quickly return to relaxed exploration, while insecure individuals engage in excessive cleaning or avoidance behavior. So there was kind of similar tests that had been done with dogs as well, and so then they decided to run this same test but with cats. So during the test, an adult cat or a kitten spent 2 minutes in a novel room with their caregiver, followed by 2 minutes alone. Then they had a 2-minute reunion, and then the cat's responses to seeing their owners again were classified into attachment styles. The results show that cats bond in a way that's surprisingly similar to infants, believe it or not. In humans, 65% of infants are securely attached to their caregiver. Pretty interesting, in my opinion, because I've always felt like cats just, don't care. They just always do their own thing. But they say domestic cats mirrored this very closely, just like infants. In fact, they classified about 65% of both cats and kittens are securely bonded to their people. So it shows that the cats are very attached to the humans. They're stable, and it's present in adulthood as well. This social flexibility may have helped, kind of facilitate the success of the species in human homes as well. But the researchers are now kind of exploring the importance of this work in relation to the thousands of kittens and cats that wind up in animal shelters. They say we're currently looking at several aspects of cat attachment behavior, including whether socialization and fostering opportunities impact attachment security in the shelters. There you go. If you have a furry cat friend, they love you just as much as you love them, and they're attached to you just as much as you're attached to them. All right, my next story is about a 4-year-old girl who went missing. You might have heard about this. Her name is Evelyn Sides. She's 4 years old, and she was found just this past Friday after she went missing in an Alabama woodland for 2 days with her dog. 4 years old. But she was with her dog the entire time. She was found safe and sound by a rescue team with her pet dog Lucy by her side. Her family posted a video to Facebook the next day with Evelyn kind of describing the incident. So it says, "We took a walk, but then I got too fast and got running and got lost. And then I started calling for Nanny, but Nanny was too far." So that's Evelyn right there. She says, "I slept by our road one the first night, and the second night I slept where they found me." Isn't that just break your heart? Lee County Sheriff Jay Jones says, "Ecstatic may not be a good enough word. It was extremely emotional." He says, "We needed this badly. This was really good, solid, positive news in a time when I think people need it the most with all the medical concerns going on right now." Definitely have to agree there. Hundreds of volunteers joined police officers. There was drones, helicopters, sniffer dogs. They were all in the search for finding little Miss Evelyn. But she was found safe and sound. The sheriff's officer said the dog was with her, protecting her the whole time. Lucy, the dog barked as search team approached, alerting rescuers to Evelyn's location before bolting off. And then the dog later returned home. Pretty amazing. So Evelyn was pretty familiar with the location, but of course she's 4 years old, and she knew it was not too far from home, but she's 4 years old. She couldn't get her way back, but she's very happy that the dog was by her side. I think, that was really a great protection. But I have to agree with the County Sheriff, Jay Jones. This is definitely some good news in a scary time for a lot of people right now. So I'm so happy little Miss Evelyn and her dog Lucy made it home safe. Now, my next story, let's see here. My next story is about some parents who have kind of gone above and beyond to show their appreciation to the janitors that are cleaning their kids' schools. So prior to state legislators closing down schools to curb the spread of the coronavirus, 2 public schools in Williston, Vermont were temporarily closed after a staff member fell ill. Since the employee had just been traveling out of state and had stayed at a hotel with confirmed cases of infection, the school was closed down just for a thorough emergency deep clean. In particular, Brooke Thomas, she's a mother of 4, and she was kind of discussing this whole incident with a number of her fellow school parents in a Facebook group. And then this is when she got the idea to raise some money for the janitors that are conducting the deep clean, because that is a big thing to do. So she says, I said we need to recognize that these staff members who are going into potential contamination and a disaster zone, really, and putting themselves at risk. It's already an underappreciated job as it is, and not the one that gets a lot of respect. It was a feel-good way to get people to recognize that. So it was only a week, and they put up a Facebook fundraiser for the custodial staff at Ellen Brook School and Williston Central School, and they went far past their original goal of $200 and raised more than $7,000 in donations. It looks like it was about $7,400 in donations that they were able to raise, which is pretty cool. And I've seen a lot of people kind of make GoFundMe pages on Facebook across the United States for their custodial staff, for people that are cleaning, all of those people that are going above and beyond to make it safe for everybody else. And these GoFundMe pages are raising quite a bit of money. It's pretty cool to see. So it's kind of been a spiral effect, and more schools are doing campaigns, and there was another school in Massachusetts that raised more than $9,000 for their custodial staffers. So there you go. That's pretty cool. They're coming together, raising money for the people that are risking their lives to keep others safe. Now, for my last story of the day, I thought this was a pretty interesting one. It's about a girl named Jo Boatwell. She's 40 years old. She's a mom of 2. And she launched a virtual pub. It was a virtual pub on Facebook. And she has now had to staff people for her virtual pub because it's gotten that out of hand, like big. I shouldn't say out of hand, but so many people are wanting to do it. So she started hosting like regular live music, quizzes, DJ sets, open mic, comedy nights. She wanted to just open this up for her town. It was just like a small English community. She wanted just to kind of bring everyone together. But it actually started to attract members from as far away as Australia, the US, Canada, Spain, Italy. So she's literally teaming up a team of 10 that she's calling bar staffers, and they talk to customers. There's like bouncers who moderate the people allowed into the pub. Like, it's legit. It's like a legit pub, but it's online. It's a Facebook thing, and they just set up DJ sets on Friday nights. There's a comedy show on a Sunday. It's basically like going out and hanging in a pub, having a beer, but like in your living room, but like getting the same entertainment. There's just last week, there was 3,000 members that were waiting for approval. Like, there is a lineup at the virtual door to get into this virtual pub. Pretty cool, but I guess when everyone's at home, I would definitely be down to go sit at a virtual pub. Sounds pretty fun to me. It sounds like just lots of entertainment. They've got people that are hooking it up to their big TV, so they have this entertainment just like on their big TV in their living room, like doing all these things. Pretty cool to see. So there you go. If you are missing the pub, you're missing a bar, there is a virtual pub, and I'm sure there's going to be more after this story comes out. There's a virtual pub that you can go and hang out and try to feel a little bit more normal, I guess, even though you're sitting in your living room still. I just thought that was pretty cool. All right. Well, that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Alyssa Jo. I love sharing these stories, as you know, but especially in this time, it brings a light into my day, so I hope it brings a light into yours. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, to like and follow us on social media, and leave a 5-star review. I am really looking forward to sharing more stories with you next time. Thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay positive, and we will share more with you next time. Thanks.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from social media news to marketing news, and even weird news, the GSMC Podcast Network has you covered. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast.